operators, and our role.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here and to celebrate with Nita-U the successes that have been gathered under the RCIP project. I'm currently the National Personal Data Protection Director, and I head the Personal Data Protection Office, which is a statutory office set up under the Data Protection and Privacy Act of 2019. This office has a unique standing within NITA. It is an independent office as provided for under the law, but within NITA, Uganda. I'm glad to be here, especially as we discuss the successes of RCIP, because I know RCIP contributed to improving the enabling environment. The enabling environment in many cases includes laws and regulations and policies, and these laws and regulations also supported the development of personal data protection in Uganda and privacy. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And over to you, Colin.
Thank you, Ronnie, and thank you everybody for coming this morning. My name is Colin Mugasha Babirukamo, and I'm the Director for e-Government Services, and my role is really to make efficient public services and move them online. If every public service that you see our people queuing up for, struggling to access, moved online, I would have done my job. I think I'd be ready to move on to another role. But I think that's my job. My job is rising up every day, thinking about the citizen. How can we make their lives easy by going and moving citizen services online? So I'm really happy that RCIP really did the building blocks, and I will talk about that, and the director is also here. But RCIP did lay the building blocks for e-governance to work. Connectivity, regulation, I think as Stella says, infrastructure, data centers. Now that we have the foundation laid, we need to talk about e-services to the citizen. So I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Brilliant. And last but certainly not least, Richard.
Yes, thank you. I'm also glad to be here. Of course, my name is Richard Obita. I am the Director of Planning, Research and Development with Nita-U, and also double as the acting RCIP coordinator, and to which, of course, we are celebrating success this morning. And we are glad to have all of you here this morning to celebrate with us. Under the Directorate of Planning, of course, we are in charge of budgeting, integrating, of course, all these plans in alignment with the NDP3. Of course, the minister earlier on hinted on the manifesto, which of course has elements of ICT, and of course the digital Uganda vision. So as the Director of Planning, of course, we integrate all those aspirations of government to fit within our activities. And of course, the success of RCIP is indeed one of the, of course, government prioritized project. Thank you.
All right, and just to guide us all, I'm going to have a question or two for each of you, and then maybe if time allows, we'll also open it up to the House. But I'd like to also acknowledge the online presence, and your comments and contributions will be coming through to me as well. Obita, I think I'll start straight away with you, as you've been the coordinator. The theme for the commissioning is Uganda's digital transformation journey, unveiling the milestones of RCIP. Why did you choose this theme?
Thank you, Ronnie. Of course, we chose this theme. One is because we are accountable to the people who have given us responsibility, and of course the citizens, and of course government. So we chose this theme to, of course, account. And then also the other thing is that we also needed to look back and see indeed where did we come from, how far we've come, of course, with this project and digitization generally in our country. So that is the reason why we came with with this theme. And of course, as you know, Uganda has had great strides in terms of ICT. Of course, within the region, we are doing well in terms of connectivity, in terms of where we've come from, right from about 1998, when, of course, the ICT sector was liberalized, to bring in new entrants. And we saw competition coming in, healthy competitions, that has enabled us to drive digitization in the country. Along the way also, we've seen quite a great number of reforms. And one of them, of course, the formation of the Ministry of ICT and other agencies that came up along the way, like Nita-U, UCC, Posta Uganda, UBC, and all these, we've seen that transformation. And we are part of this, and that's why we want to share with you this morning the great strides that we've made as a country, but also as a sector, as the ICT sector, with all your support. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe over to you, Collins. In your remarks, you said, your job is to think about the citizens, Muntu Wawansi, and how they're faring and as far as technology and all is concerned. What does the government CIO, what is NITA's role, or we've had disruptors. Technology is a disruptor. We've had negative disruptors like COVID-19, that was a disruptor as well. And so my question to you is, what is NITA doing to reconcile disruptors for the benefit of the common good of the Ugandans?
Thank you, Ronnie. We actually have a term now, not even omuntu wawansi, naye omuntu wa bulijjo.
Omuntu wa bulijjo.
Because they are really, our people in a sense, and they need equitable access to the services we enjoy here. We enjoy power, we enjoy electricity in terms of access of mobile phones and internet. That needs to permeate to all our people in every corner. But let me just speak to this COVID disruption. I think, and I believe, and all of you here will attest to the fact that the whole world was disrupted. I think the WHO was trying to follow, learning by the day, how this was disrupting from a health and research perspective. But also from a technology perspective, the whole world was trying to catch up. So if there was anything good about the pandemic time, when we were locked down, I think the big bonus was technology actually advanced.
Yeah.
The uptake for technology was high. The appetite for efficiency was high. And we were forced to do it anyway. Sometimes you couldn't move and you needed to access services. So the government was disrupted. You can imagine how, I see many government CIOs like me. You know how we enjoy our tea and our chapatis before the meetings. There was no chapati and tea, for the meetings. They sent us a link and said, the link is there, please get on. There's no traffic jam. There's no chapati. But there's no traffic jam excuse now. There was no coming late because you had a story. You simply had a link, you clicked it, and you presented, and we had a meeting. In fact, government became more efficient. We had 1 hour meetings with very major meetings. That 1 hour Zoom effective meetings that typically took 4 hours if we had physical sitting. Again, because of our mandazi, chapati, and our African tea, which I love, by the way. But this was a disruption, so we had to get on. We had churches disrupted, and they quickly had to think about how to use technology. In fact, some churches that did not think quickly about how to catch up with technology closed down. My village church in Rukunjiri, the pastor said he had gone back to farming. He went back to looking after some animals and said, I can't access the people. And so we had to have a chat about how he could do it. But there were many barriers. When you tell people in Rukunjiri to go on Zoom, you're asking for many things. Do they have access to the internet? Do they have smartphones? And so I was asking for a lot, but I was thinking, these are the things we need to do quickly as a government. So there was disruption there. Again, schools were disrupted, and we quickly had to walk in. So in a nutshell, NITA Uganda had to step in during the pandemic. For instance, just providing Zoom licenses to the government, which they're still using today, was a big game changer just for business continuity. Because for a moment, the government had stood still. You can't drive, you can't move out, you can't access offices. Does the government stop? I mean, how do you continue? So just providing Zoom licenses alone for video conferencing was actually a big game changer that NITA and UNDP worked together to do. In fact, we had a meeting last week, Ronnie, as I sort of summarize. We had a meeting with Zoom and were saying, what else can we do with you? And we are going to work on a strategy for voice and video for the whole country to see how messaging can be leveraged better for an efficient government. But some maybe 2-3 things quickly. We set up a government cloud system, a data center that you've heard about. We had anticipated that the capacity we had would last us about 3 years. In the first 4 months of COVID, government entities woke up to e-services. In fact, at some point, many CIOs are here. When they called us for capacity in the data center, we actually had none. Because we thought we had capacity for 3 years. But in 3-4 months of the pandemic, every CIO, every accounting officer, ministers were all talking about e-services. How do we support the people without them coming? And I think that's the point. We must go e-services. We must take the government to the people rather than the people lining up and coming to us. So a government cloud, internet services also were key to the last mile. I won't belabor that. The cost of a smartphone, I was talking to the country manager of the World Bank and saying we need to work on the cost of a smartphone. If every Ugandan had cheaper internet and a more affordable smartphone, $30 and under would be going a long way. In fact, the penetration of internet now is really spreading wider simply because of smartphone and social media. So let's get a cheap, affordable smartphone, and I know Huawei is here and other providers, affordable smartphone in the country. Let's lower the cost of internet, and we should be able to drive the penetration of these services. I could talk all morning about this.
I can see you're absolutely passionate about this. Thank you so much, Colin, and thank you for the organizers, at least for this meeting. There was some chapati and mandazi, so shouts out to all our sponsors. Since we're looking at the state of affairs of things right now, I'm just going to jump over to you, Noah. And could you just paint for us a picture? What is Uganda's current position? I don't know if there's a ranking or what, at least in Africa, in relation to cybersecurity, and how are we, or how is Uganda positioning herself to measure up, with technology development as a nation?
Okay, thank you, Ronnie, for that. I would not talk about a ranking per se, because I feel that rankings they're irrelevant in some way. It's like you don't go to hospital and who is the most sick person, can we put them in ranks? No, cybersecurity is a global concern. Whether you're 2 ranks ahead of someone else doesn't make sense. But what does make sense is awareness, and that's something that the government has been very keen on. And it's the first line of defense. The weakest link in any system is the human being. You can protect systems all you want, buy all the fancy antiviruses, put your intrusion detection systems. Everything will work like clockwork until a person switches it on and brings in an infected flash disk. And then all your investment, millions of dollars worth, is rendered useless. And so the first line of defense is protecting the person. How do we protect people? How do we get them aware? I have been fortunate, or in some cases unfortunate enough, to see the long evolution of cybersecurity in Uganda. I started out in 2004. When you talk about cybersecurity and you get a confused look. And to the point now that we have cyber laws, we have now the evolution of what is the National Information Security Strategy. It's now becoming the National Cybersecurity Strategy, meaning we are evolving. And so when you compare to the other countries in Africa, we are not doing too badly. The last 2 studies put Uganda in the top 10 on specific criteria that we are implementing as government to make sure that citizens are protected online. But ultimately, those are just interviews. They talk to people and ask them what they're doing. Ultimately, it's exactly what's happening on ground. Are people aware of the cyber risks that are out there? And as you know, one of the things that the pandemic showed us is that there was a huge gap. I mean, Collins was passionately saying how government is benefiting going online. I remember when we locked down, every government entity was on Zoom. And so, yeah, the pandemic, with the sad realities that it brought, also brought, it was a wake-up call for us. there was a wake-up call that, we need to digitize. And and even the SME woke up, the SME industries woke up, because you see, we are losing out on a lot of revenue globally because our SMEs are still analog. And so it doesn't make sense for government to be digitized, and yet we're leaving out the engine of the economy in the analog stages. So we have to do this together. But the thing that we also have to be very keen on is that as fast as we went online, a thing that we missed again was being secure. So security was an afterthought. When your entire organization is online, and now it's when we need to protect, we need to protect ourselves when you're getting hacked left, right, and center. And so those are some of the awarenesses. And how do we bring in, and we were talking recently at a Nita event, talking about security by design, not by afterthought. Because security is usually the afterthought. It's like, okay, we need to secure the system after it has been deployed. But how do we be secure? How do we employ security by design? And these are some of the things that Nita has been building awareness. Again, letting people know that these things are out there. Local innovation. There are about 5 cybersecurity organizations in Uganda. That's poor. You get, if you don't have a strong private sector, government can't protect everyone online, So there's only so much we can do. If you have a weak private sector, you have a weak link in the chain. And so these are some of the things that we are trying to build out. Yes, we're doing well when it comes comparatively to other African states. Many of our services are online. You can apply for your passport online. You can apply for your driving permit online. Those are huge steps. But then there needs to be the next step of how do we better secure the next millions of Ugandans that we are bringing online so passionately. How do we make sure that they understand the basics of cyber hygiene? In school, as early as nursery school, you're taught about health hygiene, wash your hands after that, before eating a meal, brush your teeth. There are simple steps that you're told to keep a healthy body. These things can be taught to our children, even when it comes to being healthy online. How do we apply simple cyber hygiene methodologies to make sure that these young people are online? And why the young people? It's like teaching the people in this room is already too late. We are by no means a representation of the population of Uganda. The average Ugandan is 15 years and below. And so how are we preparing them for the future, of a connected future? And so that's where the education should start. Not with people who first see a laptop on campus, but people who see laptops and are doing them in kindergarten, in primary. Because this is where the world is. If you're to compare yourself to the average South Korean child who first learns how to program when they are 9, and then the average Ugandan who doesn't know what programming is on campus, you can't compete in the same job market. And so cybersecurity has to start in the young people, teaching them the simple basics even as they grow and get online.
Wow, thank you so much, Noah. I'll now move over to Stella. According to Noah, most people here are endangered species. You are not, you're not the target audience in regard to this. And he's talking about cyber hygiene. But let's talk about personal data. Personal data is very, very sensitive, and yet, floated around without caution or care. I've been guilty. One time I posted my national ID, the name showed everything, and I don't even know what the post was really about. I think I was celebrating that I'd finally got it or something. And people had to warn me and say, my friend, this is your personal data. So I'd like to hear from you, Stella. What's your office mandate on how to monitor the misuse, the abuse of personal data, and what are you guys doing about this?
Okay. Thank you very much, Ronnie. Indeed, the issue of personal data is very important, not only to myself, to everyone who is here, to every human being in Uganda. Colin and Noah talked about some of the effects of COVID. Many of us went digital. It wasn't only government, it included the private sector. In our homes, I remember all my children were on one form of ICT platform or the other. I needed to create spaces where I was a very strict parent who would not allow a smartphone for my 11-year-old. I had to assign her one because she had to attend class. I had to provide a laptop. Of course, I'm still struggling to get back that smartphone, having, having released my powers. Of course, with all of us going digital, there's a lot of information that we create. And that is one of the reasons why personal data protection and privacy are very important. Now, the abuse does not only start from the organizations that collect. It doesn't start from government or the private companies. Most of the time, the abuse starts from people like Ronnie, who are celebrating getting their passport and they display the information. As I was seated there, I was Googling how much data we create, especially when I think it was Robert who spoke about the issue of big data. We create a lot of information. Now, these were statistics of 2018, and they were saying in 2 years we had created 90% of the data in the world. That was before COVID, and that was 2018. You can imagine what is happening right now. Now, in many cases, most of this data is actually personal data. Part of it, maybe 50 or even 60%, is personal data. Hands up, how many of us are on social media? Of one form or the other.
Even these endangered species, we're all there.
Indeed. So you can imagine if the endangered species are all on social media, what is happening to our children? And they are the bulk of our population. Now, the bulk of the data that we create is actually from those social media handles or channels. So people are posting photographs, they are posting their locations, they are posting anniversaries, they are posting birthdays, and this, it's even addictive in some cases. I have some friends who wake up and the first thing they will share is, I had coffee at this location. Lunchtime, you know where they are. They quarreled with their boss, it comes on LinkedIn. In the evening, everything is, out there. But of course, it creates a lot of dangers for them and even for the people around them. Because we do not only create data about ourselves, we also push out data about people around us, our families, our friends, our work colleagues. So as an office, our mandate is to ensure that we regulate the processing, the collecting and processing of personal data. And we do that by ensuring the implementation and enforcement of the Data Protection and Privacy Act. Under the law, we have a number of functions that are prescribed by the law. We can do investigations, we do audits, we create awareness, and awareness is very important. Recently, a friend of mine, he does research in the medical field. He works with the School of Public Health. So he was telling me, oh, this is actually very interesting. We need to make sure that when we sign these donor agreements, we must make sure that we protect the information that we get from our customers or clients. But then he also gave me an example. He said, when a traffic officer arrests a taxi driver, they go chest thumping that I gave them my copy. I still have the original. But remember, that copy has all the information this police officer has. So if they are to misuse it, or if they really want to track you down, it's just because they don't have maybe the resources or the time, but they can track you down. Because remember, your NIN is now connected to your telephone number. Behind your NIN, your place of birth is there, your parents, your children, almost everything. When you go to a bank, the first thing they ask you is for your NIN. So someone can even trace your financial records by just having your NIN. So our office ensures that organizations that collect, even when that police officer receives that photocopy, they should make sure they use it for purposes of enforcing, not anything else. So we are there to check, to enable organizations comply. There are many things that we are doing right now. Because we are still very lean on the ground, we are encouraging a lot of self-assessments, compliance that is done within the organization. So we are focusing on developing tools that enable organizations to apply these principles where they are. And then, of course, we are using a lot of digital channels to create awareness. We have monthly webinars, and I hope the CIOs have attended them. Every last Wednesday or Thursday of the month, we have a webinar where we talk about topical issues on personal data protection. I could say a lot, but I know we are standing between us and lunch, so I'll keep quiet.
Well, thank you so much, Stella. And you know, my job here was just to really open this up. But if you have relevant questions in the audience, maybe one of my colleagues, Patrick or someone, can help me with that. But we have an online audience, and some of those questions are starting to come through, which I'm going to throw at a few of you here. Or someone calling himself Martin Bauer, Jack Bauer's cousin. Says, Nita and UCC, who regulates who? And how best can our internet costs be leveraged to fit and suit the lower cadres? Bauer is really concerned, and he wants to know who to address. Who regulates who? Colin, should I give this one to you? Or we have a lawyer here. Yeah? Stella.
Colin has taken advantage of me because I'm here to talk about personal data protection. But yes, I have a long history in the sector, especially in developing many of its laws and regulatory frameworks. Now, that question is a question that normally comes up, especially when people want to understand who is Nita and who is UCC. We do not, I can't say UCC regulates Nita or Nita regulates UCC. It depends on the service that we are providing. For instance, UCC regulates all the telecom providers. As you know, Nita has the role to roll out and implement the national backbone. That is a telecom infrastructure. So for us to comply with the laws of this country, Nita gets a license. So Nita is a licensed provider, and that license comes from UCC. Now, when it comes to issues to do with personal data protection, UCC is a data controller. So they are required to register with the Personal Data Protection Office. So our roles are complementary depending on the service that we are providing. What is evident is that we are all within the same sector. We have one parent, which is Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, and our roles are complementary. On the issue of the cost of internet, yes, the cost of internet, obviously because UCC licenses the telecom providers, they have a say in how we do this work, ensuring that we give good quality and ensuring that when we price, we do it within the regulatory regime that they've provided, that is available to not only Nita, but is available to all the other service providers, such as MTN and Airtel. Thank you.
All right. Maybe before I go back to Noah, I'll ask Obita or Colin, maybe just to paint a picture, you know, for the audience and the public to know what really is the role of Nita. What's our mandate? Because some people, when internet goes off, they want to call Nita. My network is off. Who should they be calling? Maybe just paint a picture, Obita. What exactly is Nita's role in this game?
Yes, thank you, Ronnie. Nita-U was established under the ministry as an entity mandated to champion, of course, in general terms, digitization of the country. Amongst our roles, of course, it is provision of first-level technical support to all government entities. And in line with this, of course, we have a network operations center where all the MDAs, local governments, and all customers on the backbone that are connected to us or through the backbone can, of course, get support. The other thing, of course, is the IT service desk. This is directly with us. And, of course, here, again, of course, also to provide some level of support. The other role, of course, is the development of standardization, of course, in line with the international standards. Of course, we work closely with Uganda Bureau of Standards to develop IT standards. And, of course, we do support entities to implement. And again, also, in matters of information security, we are also there as one of our roles as an entity. We also support government entities in ensuring quality, provision of quality IT services. And amongst them, of course, is the internet. And from the previous panelist, you had the testimony of some of our services. Of course, we've come a long way with our services, and I believe in my previous roles, most of the CIOs here, I think in one way or another, we've touched base on connectivity. And so we do provide services. We do provide support in terms of hosting, and of course, which will lead eventually to the National Data Bank, and as one of the key areas that we will, of course, provision. The other area, of course, is areas of research in terms of where do we see the country going. We've talked about 4IR in the morning, and I think it is a good discussion for us to look forward and beyond what we've done under RSIP. In a nutshell, that is what Nita-U does. And of course, apart from maybe something which I possibly left out, one of our functions also is to do certification. You realize many of, and I think it ties well with what you are talking about, where do we run? Where does the public go if there are any matters of IT specifically? Previously we had guys from Chikubo here walking into our offices and telling us, we've bought these computers, they're not working. Who arbitrates some of these things? Of course, we have developed a framework, and we are the service providers, whether you're a supplier or consultancy services, you're required actually to register and be given a certificate to operate in this space. And why are we doing that? It's to bring sanity within the ICT sector, and of course to bring standardization, to bring quality services across the board, and for the good of our citizens. Yeah.
Thank you, Obita. I think it was prudent for the public to know what NITA's real mandate is. But just to throw a specific question to you, Noah. The goal of this digital transformation journey is to have 24-hour, 24/7, 365, online presence, and of course that further exposes us to unknown threats, and as far as your sector is concerned. Could you just walk us through briefly what are government's initiatives to create awareness and also counter any possible threats as RCIP is doing very well? How are we countering the threats that success comes with?
Thank you, Ronnie. When we look at digitization and going online, that's a trend that is here and is here to stay with us. And like I previously said, one of the things that needs to be at the forefront of our mind is how do we protect ourselves online. And so the principle, there are three main principles when you're talking about cybersecurity and safety online. You have people, you have processes or policies, and technology. And so on all three fronts, government is doing something. When it comes to people, over the last, maybe say a decade, there's been an intentional effort by government to not only train the CIOs and the people within the IT departments of different MDAs, but also to hire specific skill sets for the IS role, the information security role. For those who might wonder what the difference is, the difference between an IT professional and an IS professional is the same difference between an accountant and an auditor. They both deal with numbers, but they look at it from different perspectives. And actually, by international standard practice, they don't even work in the same department. They are in different departments and they report at different levels. Why? So that you can have assurance. The IT role is to make sure things are running smoothly and the systems are operational. The IS role is to make sure is a check and balance of that process, to make sure that the things are safe. And so government has started doing what we call segregation of roles as part of our ISO 27000 compliance. This is a requirement. And so those are some of the things to make sure the system is in place. And then also just awareness. Like I said earlier, the weakest link in any security regime is the people. And so NITA and together with the NISAG have been going on with awareness campaign, the Be Safe Online campaign. I'm sure you've been seeing that on social media. And so that has been rolling out, and it's going to be ramped up even in as we go ahead and scaled across the country. Just making sure people understand the safety precautions of being safe online. Like I talked about cyber hygiene, dialing this down. You see, the problem with IT people is like we talk in code. And so when you're talking to people, people don't understand what they say. When you say servers, they see money. But then they forget that we have to dial down, we have to dumb it down and understand what safety means. The same way you talk to a child when you're sending them to the shop. When you reach a road, look left, look right, look left. If there is no cross, that one didn't presume borders, but the Ugandan context, the Ugandan context in place. And the same confidence you have sending your child to go and buy bread from the shops is because you have invested some awareness and some knowledge. And so the same process has to go even when we are talking about online. The same confidence and knowledge that you will allow someone to go online is because you have taught them certain practices beforehand. And so both adults, children, awareness is important. The second pillar is processes and policies. And as Collins has mentioned, and even Stella, there have been advancements. I mean, the first major milestone was in 2010, 2011 when we passed what we call the cyber laws. So the Computer Misuse Act, the Digital Signatures Act, the Electronic Signatures Act. All these were a hallmark in trying to bring policies and processes and frameworks to allow us to start maximizing the use of these technologies and to also act on responsible usage of these technologies. You see, unfortunately, human beings, we are good at innovating, but now we fall victim to the things that we innovate. And so that's why we need these laws to help us keep ourselves in check. So another thing that government is doing has been putting in place the necessary regulations and policies for responsible use of these technologies, and also to put in measures. So when someone contravenes, when someone uses technology for a nefarious activity, they are brought to book. One of the things that I have had to endure is presenting evidence in court, and that process is very interesting because you're presenting evidence and it's supposed to speak for itself, but when the judiciary system doesn't know what a hard drive looks like or what an image looks like, you're talking about a data image, they're looking for a picture, but you're talking about a digital representation of the machine that was involved in a crime. So just that awareness and making sure that digital evidence can be presented in court and accepted. So those policies are needed there. And then finally, technology, putting in place the right systems and tools to protect from outside actors. So at all these levels, Uganda is doing something. And then finally, from a structural perspective, when you look at Uganda as an economy, there are certain players that are more special than others. Sorry to use that term, like in animal farms, some animals are more equal than others. But there are certain players, whether public or private, that hold a critical role in our economy. And these are classified as critical infrastructure operators or critical infrastructure. Now these ones come together in that echelon organization called the NISAG, and to think about cyber risk at a national level. Because when you hack a bank, it loses money. When you hack someone else's computer, they use information. When you hack a critical infrastructure, you can cause death. You can cause a national incident, an incident that causes national security. And so at that level, the risks are at a different level, and so they congregate to address national risk. And so those are some of the things that is happening within our economy.
All right, brilliant, brilliant to know. Ladies and gentlemen, as I get ready to bring about to help his editing here, well, I guess the digitization process that is being implemented by government. How are you helping the youth? We're 70% youth, and energy, brains, agility. How are you tapping into that and helping?
Yeah, thank you. And I want to thank the online audience and the brilliant question. Indeed, we are a very youthful population in Uganda, and I think that's a fact now. And what may seem like a problem for us sometimes, because our youth in many ways are idle and not employed, is actually a great opportunity for this country. Uganda has been marketed as an agriculture, minerals, tourism destination, and you had very passionate here. I think what we have missed out on is really marketing Uganda as an ICT destination, and I will sort of elaborate on that. There's an equation I like to give. I say that we have a young population. If you add it to, we are also educated, we are English speaking, we have a great time zone. I was in Scotland representing Nita, and they were saying you have the greatest equation for business process outsourcing. And this is really that in Europe right now, they no longer want to do some of the mundane, typical tasks for administration and business processes. They're saying, can we move that to you? And we're saying, please bring them to Uganda. So the equation is this: young population, educated, good English. I must tell you that you'll be shocked, but Uganda's English articulation is very high on the, on the world scale. And then, a good time zone, but also very competitive in pricing. Now, India, Philippines, I think India, Philippines, and Malaysia have been topping this agenda for many years. Now their prices are up in the roof, and their time zone is a little off. And we are saying, why can't we now market Uganda and our young population as the next India? And basically, there are three elements very quickly. There is business process outsourcing, there is knowledge process outsourcing, so even legal work can be outsourced. Accounting work can be outsourced. Data analytics can be outsourced. The third area that we're looking at, and this is already ongoing discussion, we're forming think tanks, we are actually building an ICT park just to facilitate BPO. But the third area is software development. India has also taken a great advantage of becoming the software hub of the world. But you'll be shocked that Uganda has very skilled software developers in Uganda. The biggest issue are three things. Our BPOs, KPOs are knowledge process outsourcing, like legal work, administrative work, software. There are three major issues that they're talking about that we are now trying to address. One is space. Many entrepreneurs here, and I know Barbara is one of the entrepreneurs doing BPO work, and I've seen a number of BPO private sector players here. Space is a big issue. They're looking for, where do we sit? Where can we find well-serviced space? And I walked through some really nicely serviced spaces in Scotland where people just find everything set up and they're servicing the whole globe. We need to create space. Right now, Nita is just in the second last phase of setting up the first ICT park in Uganda, and to be in Entebbe, near the airport, with an exhibition center, a BPO center, a software center, with a high tier 4 data center, not just a tier 3, but tier 4. And we shall create space for innovation, because innovators now need space. BPOs, our youth, need service space. He wants to come with his rucksack from home, but find a space with internet, well-serviced, and he can collaborate and have people to handhold his idea from an idea in the garage in his bedroom to the market. The other issue that is coming up is internet. And we're having that discussion right now. The ED did hint to you, and those online, I hope you are listening to this, because it's very important. We hope that in the next few months, as the minister said, we should have the price of internet also brought down. it's a discussion we can't have fully here because it's in discussion. So the price of internet must come down. We must provide space. But lastly, we must provide the market. So space, internet, and the market. One of the reasons that we're now traveling quite a bit and we're bringing together the Export Promotion Board, we're bringing together UIA, we're bringing together PSFU, we're bringing together Minister of ICT and Minister of Foreign Affairs. We are soon having a think tank discussion hosted by NITA and PSFU just to talk about how to market Uganda. I think marketing is one of our biggest ifs right now. Our young people are ready, but nobody knows about them. Everybody says India, Malaysia, Philippines. We need to market Uganda a little more. So the government and NITA is doing something about this. Not just internet, building ICT parks and BPOs around the country. And I mean, I can share that, all morning. We're building in every region. We want to have a BPO center in every single region. But if we can solve this space, solve internet pricing, and solve the marketing of Uganda, we should do very well for our young people.
Wow, thank you so much, Colin. And I'm glad to know some of the things you're talking about are actually happening. I was on another forum where I think Barbara was, and we have Ugandan teachers being sourced to teach English to Koreans. And I learned there that the average Korean has an annual budget of about $1,000 just to learn English. And we have so many Ugandan teachers teaching them. They're paid thrice as much as our teachers, scientists or artists, it doesn't matter, and they're not striking. So there is indeed potential, and those things I hope will come to fruition. But ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to bring this to a wrap, I'm going to allow them to give parting shots. But perhaps before they do, if there is anyone who might have a specific question. So I can see 1, 2, I'm waiting for a lady, really. So Barbara doesn't say. Any lady going once, going twice? All right, good. So I'll just ask the two gentlemen if you could just get a mic and keep it short and precise.
Yes, my name is Edward Kakuru. I work with State House Uganda.
Could you come to the light so that we see you, especially where you come from?
My question goes to the Ministry of ICT and at the same time NITA. On 19th February 2022, there was an advert in newspaper, Daily Monitor, New Vision, saying why judiciary failed to hire a Ugandan company to do a court case management system. Yet we are here today celebrating the Uganda's digital transformation. As a youth, I felt like crying. Is it this my country? With all the institutions we have. So if we are still hiring foreign companies to do a 9.2 billion, here we are giving out money, human capital, we are killing innovation. So what is the way forward? For our young Ugandans, we're looking for. Government is investing a lot in UDAP. Many projects are coming up. What is the way forward to stop this so that we transform our country digitally and improving innovation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. State House will have the second question, and I'll let those who feel best suited to respond to do so. But let's just hear the second question. If you could also just come into the light, it will be prudent for us to see you.
Thank you to the panel and all the presentations. My name is Solomon Mangene. I come from Uganda National Meteorological Authority. I'm manager for engineering and ICT there. Now, first of all, I would like to suggest that such discussion should not end in this boardroom here. The reason is we have so many problems in the country to which this digitization is a solution. And I'll give a few examples. When you apply to Makerere University for Engineering and you get 17 points, which could have happened to be last year's intake, and many of you pass Excel, the university raises the points and says now the intake points are 19. That means you can't get into the university. You need to find yourself elsewhere. Or they say, shall we give you education? shall we give you to do a BSc physics, but was that your dream? So can this be used as an innovation to open up space to educate our young people in their areas of passion? Because the reason we raise points is to cut off as many as possible. This is a question of plenty where you are throwing out, you are only taking cream and even pouring out the milk. So in education, this can be a space opener so that let the nation just be educated, let people be educated. The question of where they will get jobs should not worry us. Let them just be educated. Universities go online, admit as many as possible, as long as they are qualified. The other area we could help ourselves is tracking on digital crime. Those who have been to developed countries will bear me witness that you don't have to be running after a driver. But when he commits one crime, you strike points off his driving license. The next crime, you strike off. Eventually he runs out of points and he can't drive in the country. So you have digitally imprisoned him. You are telling him everywhere you get him, the moment he puts in his NIN, you have him. And he can't access any service. So I think this is a very big innovation. And the last one I would like to comment on is the area of opening up space. I had trouble looking for a house for my firstborn son, who is employed with a foreign country, but looking for a house with fiber optic, because we wanted fast internet to access to enable him to do his job. So you see what's coming up. Even houses are going to be costed according to how connected they are. We could not just get a house for him because we needed one with fiber optic. So you see that this is really where the future lies. We have a young population, these innovations. I like the idea of the hubs where young people can just come in, do their thing, internet assured. Maybe they subscribe by membership or something like that, but I really applaud this innovation. However, the last comment is, how connected are we as government entities? I normally cry out for my institution when Operation Wealth Creation takes out seed. In that we know that really, according to the seasons, malaria is just about to hit Western Uganda. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Engineer. So I'm going to open it up and we'll do it this way. As you give your parting shots, you'll have the opportunity to respond to some of those questions. Some involved arresting people digitally, you know, we are pouring the milk and only taking the cream. Yeah, so I don't know who wants to go first. Should I start with you, Richard? Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Solomon. Maybe I start with the last question on how connected are we. Of course, currently, right away from, I think, 2006 up to now, we've completed about, we've completed 4 phases of the backbone, of course, contributing to about 4,000 kilometers of optic fiber cable across the country. And I think the ED in his speech, of course, mentioned this. We have, so far as much of the country, the known parts actually have been connected. I could start by saying from the eastern route, we are at Busia, Malaba. The northern part, we are in Elegu, and then we have Vura, DRC, DRC, Katuna on the Rwanda side. So about 9 border points have been connected, and this is of course to increase on of course regional integration, to enhance that regional integration. We have a number of government entities at all these border points, and I think the issues of getting these services across those border points have been easy with the services that we provided. In terms of the statistics of where we currently lie as a country, or as what Nita-U has so far done, we've done about 1,400 government facilities. We've connected them to the backbone, and under the last mile project, which we've just concluded, we connected additional 700 sites. And also our ED also hinted on the on the Wi-Fi, and that is basically to deepen services closer to the citizens. However, we still have, of course, to do a lot, as the minister has already hinted on, as a sector or as NITA, we did an assessment of the entire country, and we found out that we have over 20,000 government administrative service points, and this includes hospitals, schools, and all the parishes. And even with the parish development model, we are now rethinking, okay, in the next project, the Uganda Digital Acceleration Project, we are now thinking deeper. How best can we take these services closer to the people? So we are doing this. We've factored it in our planning for the next phases, and we believe that with all your support, we will definitely achieve at least 80% of our country. You might wonder why government would take fiber to Karamoja, for example. It is because we want the private sector to utilize this facility so that they can transport their traffic to those part of the region, because possibly the cost of putting up this infrastructure might be expensive, and government is saying, for us, our contribution is that let's take fiber to all these regions. The private sector will also use, and under RRC, we have about the major private sector players in this space. We have about 19 out of about the 21. We have 19 utilizing the backbone. And this, we believe that when the private sector uses this infrastructure, definitely there's a trickle effect there about the cost, because through the backbone, we're able to give these services at a subsidized price, so that the private sector can also provide these services to our citizens. So that is what we are looking out for, and we believe that in the next projects that are coming through, we will be able to work with you so that we can take these services, the e-government services, much closer to our people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard, and thank you so much, for being the project coordinator for this successful project. Collins, over to you for your parting shots. You might want to comment on how interconnected the government, the various government agencies.
Thank you. Almost 20 years ago, we were young IT people in the country, and we were brought on board to implement the IFMS system. And I can see a couple of my colleagues who are here. Justine was among the first 5, who were among the first 5 locals to be brought on board by the World Bank to implement the integrated financial management system around the whole country. And I want to speak to this software question that that was raised by the brother from State House. Yeah. That journey 20 years ago, we could not implement our own enterprise government-wide systems. We used Oracle, we used Microsoft, and it was very successful. Many of those systems are still running. In fact, they're still being rolled out. Every time there's a new district or a new municipality, IFMS is still working 20 years ago, although many of us moved on from there. So, but software development is a journey, and I want to encourage everybody in this room that Uganda has actually progressed. While we were depending a lot on exported systems, our policy is getting clearer now for us to go open source, open standards, open APIs, and locally developed, like a boo-boo type, build for Uganda and by Uganda. So we are actually doing more local systems now more than ever. 20 years ago we had to go to Oracle. Today our first thought is, can we do this system here? You may have heard about the EGP, or the e-government procurement system. It's the first enterprise grade system right now that's working throughout the government, and it's running. It's automating the processes all the way from sourcing and suppliers all the way to contracting and monitoring of procurement, and it is locally done by Ugandans for Ugandans. So we progressed. 20 years ago we had to go to Oracle for all these systems. We had support costs, we had high sustainability costs. Now we are moving nearer to our own development. We have large systems within the education space locally done by Ugandans. Some of you may have heard during the COVID time, since this panel is also talking about COVID, we woke up and His Excellency would announce and say, tomorrow there's a travel ban, okay, there's a lockdown, and you wonder how quickly we needed to move. But in about 6 hours, 7 hours after the announcement, NITA teams and Minister of Works teams had to work through the night to have an IT locally developed solution to actually ensure that travel was still happening. And in 2 days, ladies and gentlemen, 48 hours, we had a locally developed solution that brought all MDAs to apply, issue permits, and policemen were able to monitor, by USSD and SMS who was supposed to be moving or not moving in 2 days. These are our local people. This is a team I found at NITA. I can't take credit. I am extremely impressed by our local skills in Uganda. Some of you may also remember the disbursement. We had to disburse to 500,000 vulnerable people. And it was announced during the COVID time. But guess what? NITA had to step up very quickly. And some of the people actually here, I've seen the young men and women who sat through the nights. In about a day and a half, 2 nights, I must say the ED also kept awake throughout those 2 days. He's very passionate about development. And, we stayed awake, but these guys were working. And in 2 days, we had a system that was integrated to the banks, integrated to mobile money and telcos, and picking information from clerks in municipalities and efficiently disbursing to 500,000 vulnerable people. So it's a journey, and I feel strongly that our software journey has really taken shape. 20 years ago, we had to go to Oracle and Microsoft, and I worked there before, so I need to be fair that some of those complex systems were yet to get there. We're yet to get, and you talked about judiciary, extremely complex system for judiciary right now, and we had to go outside. But I think going forward, as our teams begin to mature, we must look inside, and it is possible to do it. So allow me to just close, of course, by my closing remarks, just to thank all the CIOs, thank everybody who came here today. Our dream at NITA and for the e-government directorate is to one day, and very soon this year, for us to have a citizens portal where all services can be found in one place, a one-stop portal for our citizens, a one-stop app for our citizens. It's happening in Estonia. In Estonia, the only reasons why you have to leave your home is for divorce and a mortgage. Only reasons. You can vote in your house, you can do your bank transactions in your house, you can apply for a permit, a passport, anything in the comfort of your home with a smartphone. Uganda can do the same. So I'm asking CIOs who are here, please work with us. Think e-services first now. We have been doing many things, but whenever you see a line, whenever you see a queue of Ugandans, that is an opportunity for an e-service. Let's make e-services, bring them into one portal, and deliver this one government service to our citizens. The last approach I want to mention is that we are also putting together a concept that we shall be sharing very soon, where we shall partner with EV Kira, the bus team. Imagine if we can't yet reach Kabong, and we can't reach Chihihi far away, or we can't reach someone in the farthest corner. Why can't the government go to them? We get a bus done by Chira, solar paneled, with NIRA on board, with URSB on board, with driving permits on board, an e-passport on board, with a bank on board, driving to our citizens, fully paneled, fully connected, and talk to our citizens. We need to reach out to our citizens while they reduce their cost of transacting with the government. So join me in this dream, join NITA in this dream as we move forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Collins. Like he's put it, it's a journey. Though it seems lockdown helps to quicken that journey. Maybe Muzai should threaten us some more for quicker innovation. Let's hear from Stella. Parting shots on data protection, and whatever parting shots you have for us.
Thank you very much. Obviously, when you hear how passionate Colin is, you know a lot of data will be created, a lot of it will be stored.
And a lot might be abused.
Yes, to the CIOs here, let's ensure that we respect the use of personal data. Let's make sure that we put in place compliance frameworks within our organizations that will help us comply with the law. Let's take advantage of privacy by design, similar to what Noah was talking about. You can do all your processing with privacy in mind. That way you prepare for it rather than waiting for a problem, then you react to that problem. For many of you, you're data controllers or you work with data controllers, the Data Protection and Privacy Act requires you to register with the office. This process is all automated. You just go to our portal. If you Google Personal Data Protection Uganda, it will automatically take you to our portal. That process is all digitized to the point of even receiving your certificate. So there are no excuses. We provided so many guidelines within the system that can be of use to you. And of course, we are available to provide whatever guidance, whatever guidance you have. So we request that you be our ambassadors, that once you collect personal data, it is your responsibility to protect it. And many of you who are here are fully in charge of those protection measures. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stella. And last but certainly not least, Noah, what are your parting shots? Engineer, it's not really questions, more like comments, but you could speak into those as well.
Okay, I'll pick up from where Stella has left off. Now, once you know that you need to protect your data, the next thing is going to be how. And so that's the thing that I'm going to push for. How do you protect your data? How do you protect your systems? This must be thought of beforehand. What systems need to be deployed? What training do you need to have? And so that's the thing that we push for, awareness on cybersecurity risk, and knowing that, again, we speak about employment, but one of the most under-resourced areas is cybersecurity. That role remains a gap globally, by the way, globally. So if you trained even just 10% of the people who graduate in IT skills in cybersecurity, that is going to fulfill a very huge gap, a very huge need, both, of course, within government, but even in the private sector. The second point is also to support. I'll also add my voice to the Bubu, song. There are a handful of private sector cybersecurity firms in Uganda. Speaking of an 18-plus year practitioner, and that's a sad state of affairs. It's like saying, we are buying all these cars and there are only 5 fuel stations, of which even the quality of fuel you question. And so now you're forced to import fuel in, and so the private sector in cybersecurity is so foreign dependent that it becomes our weakest link. And you see, many of these private organizations are for profit. And so they don't care whether, it's in Ugandans' best interest. As long as you pay for the license, they are good. But if you have homegrown industry, manned by Ugandans and serviced by Ugandans, that increases, we spend north of $50 million every year just paying for cybersecurity related costs, both government and private sector. That money can stay in country. Imagine what it could do to budding businesses that are growing in this area that should be of national concern. And so that I just want to add my voice there as the chair of NISAG to encourage the CIOs there to also put on that hat, because ultimately you're the decision maker. You're the one who chooses Kaspersky or an organization here. And so give them a chance. And of course, with maturity level, considering the maturity level, you can't start giving them the whole pie. Give them bits and pieces as we build the industry. And at some point we'll have the maturity, not only to serve ourselves, but even to export and create value for our youth. Then finally, there was the question on tracking the criminals. And you brought up actually a very interesting example about a demerit system. Interestingly, the law was amended, the Traffic and Road Safety Act was amended in 2020 to add that component of a demerit system. So right now it's just about to be deployed. So when you commit a traffic offense, they just take up points. And so they'll catch you when you go for either renewal or when you're stopped and flagged down and they scan your award-winning driving permit. I don't know whether we knew that our driving permit is award-winning, but your award-winning driving permit will be able to track those demerit points. So just to give you comfort that is already enabled by our law, and it's a system that's about to be deployed. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much. And a round of applause for the panel. I think they've done a very, very good job. And I'll actually allow them to just go and take their seats. We've pretty much come to a wrap of our session here today. And maybe I'll be inviting Collins to return. He gave us the opening remarks, and maybe he will bring this to a wrap as well. But just to let you know, lunch will also is actually ready, and will be downstairs at the Paradise Restaurant. But for now, let me just invite Collins to officially give us the closing remarks. And
Round of applause for our really cool MC. And yeah, I hope I'm loud enough. I really, really want to thank the Honorable Minister in his absentia, but I want to thank the representative of the PS, of the Minister of ICT and National Guidance, who is here. I really want to thank, of course, the CIOs who are here. I can see, very key CIOs, from our partners, the New Vision Group, UBC, Next Media, and all the people that have come here right now. Thank you so much, and we look forward to a partnership on how we can tell this story to Ugandans. I think many Ugandans really don't know what government is doing. They don't understand where we are on this journey, and rightly so. So we're really, we need to partner together closely. UBC, Vision Group, Next Media, and all the media that is here to just tell this digital transformation story together. I want to thank all the CIOs who have come this morning, put aside your time. I see directors, I see heads of IT, I see some of the top thought leaders in the industry, from the armed forces, the security forces. I want to take a moment to say thank you for taking time off your schedule, and hopefully you have seen where we are and where we want to go. So thank you very much. I want to thank our partners, strategic partners who are here, who first of all thank the World Bank. Thank you so much for just facilitating this over the last 5 years. We look forward to the next steps and the next journey as we do the digital acceleration. I want to thank our partners who are here. I think they mentioned them already, but we never work alone. We need to work with partners. Thank you, Soliton, that actually sponsored a big part of this breakfast. Let's have a big round of applause. Thank you. The MD is here and his team. Thank you. And I want to thank all our partners who are present, who have actually worked on this RCIP. I want to thank the staff of NITA, who really do a thankless job sometimes. Before I joined NITA, I never understood NITA, I must admit. I've been in the industry for long, but something went wrong. I said, these NITA people, until I moved into NITA, and I realized that this team is lean on the ground, but they work extremely hard. And having been in this industry for more than 2 decades, I found some of the best brains at NITA. I really want us it may sound selfish, but please just clap for the NITA team and those who are behind this breakfast. So I want to just say thank you once again. The breakfast is now moving into a lunch mode, so I will stop here, but I want to just invite our ED, who will be passing on a last handover gift to the World Bank. Otherwise, thank you very much, and you're all invited to lunch. Please, please, please come to lunch as we continue on this journey. Thank you, ED.
It's lunchtime, so I'm not going to say much. I'll just hand over the gift to our main development partner, the World Bank. Thank you.
Thank you all, and bon appetit. It's a faith thing. There's food actually, so let me say bon appetit. I think the MC is out. We can close right now. Thank you very much once again, and please come again when we have these government-wide discussions. Let the discussion continue. Thank you. DJ?
kyonka na MTN Momo nyabo. Echora kore kyonka